welcome to Mooney Reads. Today I have some short trans book recommendations. The Trans Rights Readathon is right around the corner, starting March 21st, so I thought now was a great time to put out some recommendations, although these are good to read year-round. I've got a mix of fiction and nonfiction here, so we'll start out with fiction. The first book that I wanted to recommend is The Woods All Black by Lee Mandelo. I was so obsessed with Lee Mandelo's first book, Summer Suns, so I've been really excited each time they've put out something else. I recommend all of Lee Mandelo's book, but The Woods All Black came out last year, I think. It's the most recent one that I've read, and it's the one that has trans main characters. This starts out as more of a gothic horror set in Appalachia in the 1920s or 30s. Our main character is an invert, which is kind of an older term that was used to talk about being gay, but also involved gender as well. Our main character is sent to a small Appalachian town to be a nurse and give vaccines, and is not very well received at all by this very religious town. I won't say too much more plot-wise, but I will say about halfway through the book, it turns from Southern Gothic to an explosion of like smut and gore. It was so weird and not what I expected, but in the best way possible. And it's T for T, which means that both members of the couple are trans. My next recommendation is also T for T, Caroline's Heart by S.A. Chant. This is another historical book. Our main characters are a cowboy and a witch. This is a romance, but there is also so much in here about grief. So it's really beautiful in that way. And this one is super short, so I won't say anything else, but I really enjoyed this one. And S.A. Chant is another one who has multiple books. I think I've read 2 of them, and they were both really good, but Caroline's Heart was my favorite. Next, I have an anthology. Now, the whole anthology isn't trans, it's all queer, and includes trans stories. That is Love After the End, edited by Joshua Whitehead. This is a short story collection of end of the world stories written by queer Indigenous people. A lot of the times with anthologies, there will be some really good ones, some really bad ones, and like a lot of middle of the road. But this is one of the few like no skip anthologies that I've read. Like, I think maybe 2 or 3 of the stories were only okay. The vast majority of them were excellent. There is so much diversity in these different conceptions of what the end of the world will look like, and a lot of discussion about like beginnings as well. Just so much really good stuff going on. My next recommendation is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. My elevator pitch for this one is Anti-Fascist Librarians in the Wild West. What more could you need to know before going to read it? This book starts out with our main character hiding in the librarian's wagon. She's running away after her lover was killed because it was found out that she was gay. And she ends up going on an adventure that she could not have anticipated. After that, we move into YA and middle grade territory. This next book I have seen shelved in young adults, although I think that it fits a little bit better for middle grade, so it's kind of in that in-between. That is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This is set post-revolution. Supposedly all the monsters are gone, but when our main character accidentally brings one of her mother's paintings to life, she soon finds out that they have not all left. This is an adventure and a mystery, but it also talks about a pretty tough issue. One of the big themes that they're kind of talking about with this is child sexual abuse. But one of the things that's so amazing about this book is how gracefully it's handled, especially because the fantasy elements are used in a way to make the story interesting and to make it feel, I think, a little less intense than it could feel otherwise, if that makes sense. But it doesn't shirk the intensity of the problem. So I think it's a really good way to have conversations with kids about this, and has the potential to be really healing if you're an adult reading it. There's also a prequel to this out now, about the main character's mom as the revolution is happening, called Bitter. I haven't read it yet, but I really need to pick it up soon because the first one was really good. Then the final fiction book that I have to recommend is solidly middle grade, and that is Deep and Dark Blue by Nikki Smith. This is set in a fantasy world and focuses on a pair of twins who are a part of the aristocracy. And at the beginning of the story, their relative is killed and they're forced to hide in a convent so that they won't be targeted as well. So they are having to live as women and as nuns in this convent. And one of the twins figures out that she is actually trans, whereas the other one is very much not. So that's going on alongside everything that's going on with their family. There's some really, really cool magic stuff going on. The magic system is based in textiles, which is just super neat. And this is another one where we have some tough things happening. There are multiple losses in this, and of course these kids are having to grapple with that. So there's that element of grief that, again, I think is handled really well, and the art is really great. And now we can move into the nonfiction. First, I have Miss Major Speaks by Miss Major Griffin-Gracy. This is a memoir told in a series of conversations where she's talking about her experience as a trans activist throughout her life. It starts out with a conversation about Stonewall, where she talks about her experience with it, but also critiques how it's used in popular discourse now and kind of our ideas about it. And throughout the book, she also talks about being so many other places. She talks about her time in prison and being radicalized there. She talks about being in community, both in like an official capacity as an organizer, but also a lot just what it's like being in community and helping different people. There are so many awesome insights in this book, and it's just really cool to be able to read something from a trans elder, especially one who's still alive. My next recommendation is by another incredible trans activist, Leslie Feinberg. Of course, Leslie has quite a few books, but the one that I was going to mention is Trans Liberation. This is a collection of speeches and essays that Z did at a variety of different places. And intermixed with her essays are ones written by other people in the community as well, including one from Sylvia Rivera. There is just so much excellent stuff in here, not just in terms of history or like a snapshot into that time, but this says some really essential stuff on solidarity, the importance of solidarity both within the trans community and between different communities and trans people. This is such an excellent collection, and I will always be yelling for people to read more Leslie Feinberg. So if you haven't read any of her stuff or have only read Stone Butch Blues, now's the time to read Trans Liberation. Next, I have what's probably the smallest book on the list, I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya, which is about her experience of men and of misogyny and trans misogyny as a trans woman. And it's been a while since I've read this one, but I remember being really impressed with how much nuance was able to be created in such a short span of time. And then the final book that I have on this list is Amateur by Thomas Page McBee. This is a memoir by a trans man who is getting into amateur boxing. the whole thing starts up because this person is a journalist, and so he was kind of wanting to document his foray into this. He kind of talks about his experiences with like violence with other men and this kind of culture of fighting a little bit that is kind of ingrained in traditional American masculinity. But he was wanting to compete for this charity match, basically. And you follow him through what it was like just actually being there, and like, so like the boxing fighting element, but also the camaraderie that he experienced, and kind of unpacking some different things about masculinity that he's reflecting on. I'm not really a sports person even, but I found it super interesting. So that is the end of my list. Those are all of my short recommendations for the Trans Rights Readathon. In the comments, let me know if you've read any of these or if you have anything to add to this list. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.